3, 2, 1.
Welcome in Husker Extra Podcast. I'm Chris. I'm rocking my St. Bonaventure Bonnies shirt today as the NCAA tournament gets underway. We got Sipple. We got Parker. I got Utah State, Texas Tech on the tube right now. I'm flipping back and forth between that and Ohio State and Oral Roberts. It is one of the greatest days of the year. Today, tomorrow. And we'll be kind of looking up and watching this while we're podcasting. But we're also going to talk some Husker football. A little bit of news too, as we, I guess, creep closer to the beginning of spring football here in the next couple of weeks. So, as always, I'll turn it over to the experts on the topic. Parker, Sipple. There's a couple of potential recruits out there that are kind of garnering some discussion.
Go ahead, Pete. Heavy Pete.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting. I think you just sort of starting to see the recruiting activity pick up. I'm just going to completely
just ignore.
Disparagement.
Probably right. Wise.
It was not disparagement. It wasn't a commentary on your weight. I mean, you've been running and all that. You're svelte.
You're svelte. You're trim.
You are linear.
Linear.
I don't know that I've ever been described as linear.
Linear. That's amazing.
Go ahead.
All right.
Linear.
Go ahead. Yes.
It's sort of interesting. So Nebraska's obviously starting spring ball 10 days from now, and recruiting has obviously been quiet. You know, Nebraska's got the one commit from Ernest Hausman, linebacker from in-state here, but then there's a bunch of guys who are sort of coming on visits to campus on their own dime in the next few weeks, or are slated to currently. And remember, until at least May 31st with the dead period, that just literally means they can come to campus and walk around, but they can't meet up with the coaching staff or have the coaching staff show them facilities or the stadium or anything like that. So it's sort of a unique time in that regard. A couple of quarterbacks are in that group for 2022. Richard Torres from San Antonio, Texas, and MJ Morris from Atlanta. MJ Morris said he's trying to commit sometime in May. Talked to him yesterday. There's a story up on HuskerExtra.com currently. But he's going to see 4 schools that he knows of: Nebraska, Florida State, and Georgia Tech, which obviously are a little easier to get to from Atlanta, and then Stanford. So Nebraska and Stanford being the 2 that are further away. There's some other guys too. There's Popeye Williams, who's an outside linebacker from Indiana, is coming to see campus on his own next weekend. There's an offensive lineman whose name I'm blanking on right now, but I'm going to look up on the Twitter right now, who's doing an odd swing. 4 schools in 5 days he's going to see, and Nebraska's in on that. Sullivan Weedman is his name, from Boston. So he's seeing some East Coast schools in Nebraska. So the bottom line here is essentially that it's just starting to tick up a little bit on the recruiting front in terms of kids coming to see campus on their own. I don't think it's a coincidence that sort of lines up with Nebraska starting spring ball. I mean, they can't go watch practice unless practice is open on sort of a wider level. But guys are around, they're engaged, coaches are around, they're engaged. And so it sort of just lines up in my mind in that way. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I don't know that there's anything imminent out there, in terms of commits or anything like that, but that's sort of the latest on the recruiting front. And then I think Nebraska yesterday and today were wrapped up winter conditioning officially with testing and all of that, athletic testing.
Sipple, what was your vertical yesterday in testing?
I'd probably go about 18 inches. 18.
Seems 18. Generous.
Yeah. Generous. Please, really.
Is that what it says in your recruiting profile? It's like those kids that run a 4.25 when they're like juniors in high school. Then it magically turns into like a 4.
So it's good though to mention that they wrapped up winter conditioning. That's a landmark. And then Parker, what is the first day of spring ball, by the way?
Yeah, so I think the first practice is technically on Tuesday, March 30th. So I think for the most part, they're going to be on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday practice schedule, but practice numero uno is Tuesday, March 30th. They get a couple official practices in that week. Then obviously, there's some other, voluntary or whatever on days when they're not actually practicing. It's not like they're, sitting at home eating Lucky Charms all day on the days during the 5 weeks of spring ball when they don't actually have formal practices. But so what is that? That's 10 days from now, 11 days from now. So we're pretty much at the end of winter conditioning here. Spring ball will get going, and then it'll basically run the month of April before a red-white spring game on May 1st.
You know what would be cool?
What would be cool?
Frost has alluded to the possibility once or maybe twice, but I don't think it's happening. You know what would be cool? Okay, now you could push back on this. I think it would be neat if they released the results of the testing. Like I'd like to know a few 40s, like the top 10 40s and the top 10 verticals and the top 10 bench press. I think it would be not that it means anything, but Baz remembers Parker because he's older and he's been around here. But they used to do that. I mean, it
was super interesting. Yeah.
It's
not necessarily that you got a lot out of it, but it was interesting to see just who was the fastest or who was the strongest or whatever. So
there were always kind of. Go ahead, Parker.
Well, let's just do a quick mental exercise. I'll put you on the spot here, Sipple. Who would you give me a couple candidates for who would run the fastest 40 on Nebraska's football?
Ooh, I'll say Alante Brown. I'm throwing him out right away.
Okay,
Alante Brown. For your Alante Brown, I would say Ramir Johnson. Ramir Johnson has said that he's one of the fastest players on the team.
There you go.
And he was a sprinter in high school.
Yep.
Parker covered that end of it. Okay, Parker, who would you say?
It's a good question. I think Alante Brown's a good candidate. I would hazard to guess that the quarterback would be in the mix. Both of them, maybe not the very fastest, but I bet you that number 2 got down the way in pretty good shape there in the 40-yard dash.
Really,
Long strider.
Big Adrian. Yeah.
We've been calling him Young Adrian, but he's going to be a 4th-year starter.
Yeah.
He's no longer young.
Right. So I wonder about Adrian in that. Is Adrian that fast? Is he faster than Smothers, Parker?
I'm not sure. Maybe. I mean,
who would know that?
That's why they got to release.
That's why they got to release this. It has to be settled.
Yep, it has to be settled. Get on the phone. Get Frosty on the podcast right now.
Yeah, call him. Let's see if we can. Maybe he'll join us and reveal it.
So there's that. That's what. It's always good to know where they're at in their situation over there. So we've covered that. A little bit of recruiting. They do have Parker, am I mistaken? They just have one guy in the class of 2022 at this point.
Yep. The one other interesting thing that happened this morning was that it's not through the program technically because they're summer camps, but a set of sort of a camp schedule, a tentative camp schedule was released this morning, which is sort of interesting. Don't know for sure that it's even going to be, allowed. That would require the dead period ending on May 31st. But if it does, they're going to try to put together basically a full June worth of camps over there, which would be interesting given just how long things have been shut down. 2 Friday Night Lights camps, June 4th and June 18th. They're going to try to do that Adidas Pipeline, the lineman camp on Saturday, June 19th. So there's a quarterback camp in there somewhere, I think on the 5th. So if it opens back up, you're going to have a couple things happen. A rush of kids all over the country wanting to take official visits to whatever schools they're considering. And then also a rush to get kids to attend these camps. And right now, Nebraska looks like they're going to try to push ahead and have basically a full camp schedule through the month of June.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Good podcast, guys.
Yeah. Great.
No, there's plenty of
we should probably touch on this too. That the news has kind of trickled out that Nebraska's potentially looking to schedule a game September 4th or move a game scheduled against Southeastern Louisiana to September 4th, so they can get that extra home game early in the season. Nothing concrete on that yet. of course, other than that it's being looked into. So more scheduling, I guess, not really shenanigans, but more scheduling potential movement potentially on the way here for Nebraska.
The interesting part of that discussion to me is that where we are in the calendar on March 19th. I mean, that is, now I guess you could, in the context of COVID, it makes a degree of sense, but man, I mean, this would have been unheard of in many years at Nebraska still tinkering with their schedule on March 19th. But that's what's happened. And I don't know what, there's a lot. Here's what it boils down to, in my opinion. I'd like to get on the phone with the Southeastern Louisiana AD and see what he says about moving its game from, I think, November 3rd. Or what they would have to move its game from November 13th to September 4th. And I don't know what their willingness is in that regard.
I would be surprised if it happened. I mean, it's not impossible, obviously, but I'd be a little surprised if it happened. One, because of the late date. I mean, Southeastern Louisiana has a game scheduled for September 4th, so you'd be talking about moving multiple games to make that work. And then the other thing is, it would obviously mean people back in bars and restaurants and around town earlier in the calendar in Lincoln in terms of economic impact, but it wouldn't be altogether different in the grand scheme of things, whether you have that game in September or November. I mean, maybe the weather's nicer. And then from the recruiting standpoint, like, I get that that's an issue. You only have one home game in September, and I can see that. I understand that, but September non-conference home games that are ticketed for 11 a.m. starts are not the best way to get recruits on campus. I mean, I guess I would just be surprised if you went through all of the rigmarole of getting that game changed to September 4th just to have it be an 11 a.m. kick and have 3 guys there on official visits on a holiday weekend. Like, it just doesn't – somehow that seems like a lot of juice for the squeeze, but
yeah,
it's something that they feel strongly about. I mean, they can try it. I guess I'd be sort of surprised if it happened.
I think that's the thing a lot of people maybe don't think about is it probably would be an 11 a.m. kick, right? Like it isn't going to be like an afternoon game or it's 7. This isn't going to be a 7 p.m. game. Certainly. You're talking, like you said, you're talking about an 11 a.m. On a holiday weekend. Like it's like you said, Parker, it's a lot of rigmarole to make it happen just to get that extra home game.
Yeah, so really, these discussions are sort of, unfortunately, I think it's become a little awkward. I don't want to make it more awkward than it is. We'll see what happens. I don't regard it as
go ahead and try. See if you can make it more awkward.
I don't regard it as earth-shattering news, I guess. You know, it is. No. They might move the game, they might not. And if they don't, I don't think it's a big deal. I would kind of personally welcome the time off on September 4th. To barbecue and ride the hog. So that's it.
There you go. Well, you can submit your preference to that to HR and see what happens.
To Frosty, I can submit that.
Submit that to the Frost HR department and see what they come back to.
Scott,
a barbecue sounds good that day.
Frosty, I want to take the hog up to Columbus on September 4th. So if we can make that happen. Take the hog out to Bankelman.
Yeah, I mean, we could go very deep into spring football, but I think we're a week away on the podcast from doing that.
Yeah, we'll have plenty of time to do that.
Yeah, we don't need to get into all the position battles and things like that. There's some things that happened in basketball this week that are interesting, Baz.
Yeah, speaking of not really position battles, the annual personnel moves extravaganza is underway. We've seen 3 scholarship players transfer out. Akola Rope. Now I'm going to forget all of them. Akola Rope, Elijah Wood, and who's the third one? Ivan Widrogo. How could I forget it? How could I forget Big Ivan? All made their decisions public on the same day, on Monday, opening up 3 scholarships for Nebraska going forward. Not really earth-shattering news there. I think most people probably saw the writing on the wall with all 3 of those guys, especially the way things went down the stretch of the season. Ivan didn't play in several games going down the stretch, and we saw what Derek Walker and Eduardo Andre did ahead of him in that role. Elijah Wood, again, another guy that didn't see a lot of playing time, and same with Cole, who was hurt this year, but didn't play much last year until the end of the year. So it all comes back to something that Matt Abdelmassih has talked about before, and it's just really hard to keep 13 scholarship players happy. There's only so many minutes to go around, and if you're Nebraska and you're trying to build a program, you're looking for talented guys, and you need the scholarship openings to go after those talented guys. And what does that mean? Well, especially in this day and age, it means guys are going into the portal. And I think I'd be interested to see the inner workings of how Nebraska handles it, but I feel like they do a good job of being honest with these guys and being real with them. Because you don't seem to see a lot of bad blood with these guys that are transferring out and things like that. I think that the situation has probably been made clear to them for a while. And so now Nebraska has some flexibility. You've got 3 open scholarships in a year where the transfer portal is going to be probably more active than it's ever been, with the free year of eligibility, with a waiver looking like it's coming for the one-time free transfer. Going to be a lot of guys and a lot of options. And we've already seen that over 600, I think close to 700 guys in the portal already, basically since Nebraska's season ended, the conference tournament.
Did you see that? I think it was maybe it was verbal commits the other day. Baz had tweeted that like same day in 2019 it was 200. Last year it was 400, and this year was 600. Yeah,
650. Well, and I think one of the days this week there was 60 that went in on the same day, 60 guys. And that's just what it is. And we saw it again today. Look who went in today. Marcus Carr from Minnesota, an all-conference Big Ten player. A guy that will probably test the professional waters too. Look at you think Nebraska's got a bunch of guys leaving. Look at Penn State, who had 4 of their top 5 scorers going to the portal.
Did they really?
Yeah.
The Nittany Lions did?
Yeah, coaching change probably has a lot to do with that and the way that whole thing went down up there. But yeah, 4 of their top.
Did Brockington jump in there?
Brockington, Myron Jones, John Hara.
Yeah.
And I forget the 4th one, but yeah, it's 4 of their key guys, 4 of their top.
Holy cow.
So,
man. But
it's like that. It's like that everywhere, right? Like, again, Nebraska's had 4 scholarship guys go in. If you throw in Teddy Allen, but again, for Nebraska, Teddy Allen's really the only guy that was a major contributor on this year's team. We've talked before about Nebraska's need for continuity going into next year. Well, it looks like that's going to happen. I would expect there's probably going to be one more that probably announces he's leaving sometime in the next week or two. But other than that, it looks like they're going to have the majority of the guys back, the vast majority of the guys back that played significant minutes last year. And then you go into the portal and you start looking for what you need. For Nebraska, that probably means a guard, preferably a lead guard. It probably means a wing, a 3-and-D wing, and then maybe a post player to add depth. If you can find a guy in the portal that's willing to, come off the bench and play a role like that. So Nebraska's going to have some openings. That doesn't mean they're going to fill them all, but it's pretty clear they're going to return their core. They're going to add that recruiting class. Then you go find 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 guys that you think can help you right away out of the portal, and then you move forward. So it's going to be, compared to these last couple of years, it's going to be a pretty quiet and stable offseason for the most part for Nebraska.
What'd you call that wing? A 3-and-D wing? What was
3-and-D?
That?
A 3-and-D wing, a guy that's a high level 3-point shooter and is also a good defender.
Got it.
He's kind of a specialist a little bit.
Got it.
Yeah, he does a lot of this, running back down the court. And then he goes back and slaps the floor and locks down an opponent's wing. So
just like,
and there's kind of like me, kind of a 3-and-D guy.
In Ravenna.
From Ravenna. That's what we do. Yeah. But it's just interesting to kind of watch the various names pop up and you see who's contacted them, and a lot of them it's Nebraska's reached out. Well, yeah, Nebraska's going to reach out to about everybody, because if it's a high quality player, you just do your due diligence, right? Like your Marcus Carr, for instance, they may not get him. They probably won't get him, but you still have to reach out and ask, right? Hey, are you interested?
I would think so. Well, yeah. I mean, you don't want to reach out to everybody, but
no, not everybody. But quality, everybody.
Okay, Parker, come on.
Matt Abdelmassih has sent 650 text messages.
You can't say you left no stone unturned if you don't reach out to everybody.
All right. Now, but I am interested I'm semi-interested in that Marcus Carr discussion. I mean, think about the way he would change the conversation if for some reason he said, you know what, I'm going to go to Nebraska.
It's interesting because that's a guy that you think of him as a scorer, and he is. But look at his assist numbers playing on a pretty bad Minnesota team. Like, he didn't have a lot of help around him, and he averaged 5 assists this year. And it was up closer to 7, before it got late in the year and they had a bunch of injuries and he had to start taking 25 shots a game, basically. So, that's a guy that can come in and be a lead guard for you. And he's a proven commodity. He's proven.
He put 40 on you.
I was going to say, he scored 41 against you. Yeah. 40.
Yeah.
So he can do it.
Yeah.
So, but there's a lot of guys like that. Tyson Walker is a transfer out of Northeastern who averaged 19 points a game, scored 27 against North Carolina when Northeastern played Carolina. Again, a guy that can come in. You're not going to ask him to do that here, but a guy that can come in, can score, and can play that guard position for you. There's a ton of guys like that every year. So the nice thing for Nebraska is they're not in a position where they're going to the transfer portal saying, we have to find this guy. We have to get X. They have guys for the most part for the positions they need. They have guys at guard. Could you use another wing that can make threes? Yes, but you've got guys, depending on what Thornton or Browerson decides to do, whether he wants to come back or not. You've got some guys that can be solid wing players for you. You've got guys, couple guys coming in this recruiting class that can fill some of those roles for you. So it's different for Nebraska in that you can be maybe a little more flexible with who you bring in and be a little more patient with who you go after, as opposed to, we're flipping over the whole roster. We got to find 7 or 8 or 9 guys. You're going to go try and find 2 or 3 maybe and add them to what you got coming in. So it's interesting for Nebraska in that aspect because there is going to be some stability and some continuity going into this offseason.
Yeah, you're right, though. I like what you said at the opening about Fred. I think Fred would be about as direct a guy with players and as honest with players as you could find. Now, Baz, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I've never really heard any issues at Nebraska. As much turnover as they've had, I don't hear a lot of there hasn't been controversy or guys talking about a bad experience. Fred's very direct. I mean, what I've heard about Fred is he's one of the most honest individuals you'll ever find.
Well, and look, a lot of that probably goes to his NBA background, right? Like when they're talking to guys, and I don't know this for a fact or anything, but you have to assume when they're talking to guys, they're talking about the NBA experience, right? We're going to treat you like a professional. We run this organization like a professional organization. And that means, yes, you're going to have an opportunity, but there's nothing guaranteed for you going forward. And, that makes it a lot easier at the end of the year. If you need to create some space or ask a guy to move on, or if a guy wants to move on, they say, look, we've been honest with you up front. And Matt Abdelmassi has basically said that, in various interviews he says, we're very transparent with guys and we're very upfront with guys as to what we expect and things like that. So you have to think that's part of the discussion with a lot of these, and why at the end of the year, it's a pretty smooth transition, I think, for Nebraska to create some space the way that
Isn't it interesting? It's like it's sort of an interesting part of the whole portal discussion that you have to be transparent with guys, because if they don't work out, we're going to find somebody in the portal. I mean, it kind of cuts both ways for players. It's good for players, but the conversations can be a little more real that way because of the portal. Because we'll go get somebody else if you're not doing it.
And if you're a player and you don't feel like you're getting the truth, you can go find somewhere else to play.
Yeah, you have an avenue, right? You have an avenue.
Yeah, and you think about the way this coaching staff does it. And when they were at Iowa State, they were one of the few coaching staffs in the country that was doing it that way, building through transfers, stocking rosters that way. And now everybody does it. So now how do you differentiate yourself at a time now when everybody else is doing what you're doing? You act like a professional organization. You be completely transparent. You be completely honest with them, and you lay it out for them. And you say, this is it. And some schools might promise a lot of playing time and then may not have it for them. I don't think that happens at Nebraska. I think Fred and Matt and Armand Gates and this staff are just very brutally honest with what happens and transparent with what happens. I think that, like we said, it makes it a lot easier for both parties.
Yep. I'll tell you what, I'm going to be very brutally honest right now. I'm going to go get some nachos and I'm going to get some hoops going.
Oh yeah.
And I'm going to have my bracket sitting next to me, and I'm not going to get up off the recliner for a few hours. Are you guys? Are you feeling it right now? Are you feeling?
Yeah, Oral Roberts taking it to Ohio State in the first.
Yeah,
half.
they're feeling it. 3-point lead for Oral Roberts. The last 10 seconds of the half here.
Oh, is that right?
Big Ten off to a shaky start with Michigan State's performance last night in the loss to 3-pointer going up at the buzzer for Oral Roberts, and it's no good.
They were up 8 though earlier in the half. Oral Roberts.
Wow! Hey, breaking news! I just saw it on. Somebody texted me. Is Brad Stevens going to Indiana?
That's the rumor.
That's supposedly it.
They're going to have to throw a lot of money at that dude if they're going to make it happen. A lot of money.
Someone was he's said flat out that he's not taking it, but
yeah.
Hey,
but a lot of coaches say they're not taking it, and then they take it.
Bass, think about that. Think about that. In the Big Ten. The Big Ten's not that tough right now, but
yeah.
I mean,
add Brad Stevens. Yeah.
Right, add Brad Stevens. And I don't know what Minnesota's going to do. What have you heard anything about Minnesota?
I think Craig Smith's a pretty high up on the list there, the former Tim Miles assistant. He'll be a popular choice. I think a lot of this depends on kind of how the tournament goes. You know,
okay.
You're waiting for teams to get eliminated and things like that.
Craig Smith's out as of 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, that's true. Craig Smith's out as of 2 minutes ago. Utah State lost to Texas Tech. So,
wow, Brad Stevens. So, what's the validity on Stevens? Parker, can you see anything there?
It's all of the thing on that is that over the past week or so, since Archie got fired, that national guys have basically poo-pooed it. There's no way it's happening. It's not happening. The NBA guys have said, nope, it's not. Brad Stevens was asked about it on a radio show. He said, I'm not taking that job. And then Mark Titus, of all people, on Twitter has basically just been saying, he said this morning, he was tweeting this morning, Mark Titus, who played at Ohio State, and I don't know, does he work for the Ringer or something now? Yeah,
works for the Ringer. He's pretty well connected.
He's been saying all day today, look, I'm not saying, I'm just saying, there's smoke. So
oh, really? Is that right?
Yeah. So that's been the deal on that.
Okay. I'll tell you what, yesterday I literally let out a whoop when I sat down to watch Michigan State UCLA. I mean, I felt it. I mean, it was nice.
Did it feel good?
Yeah, it felt really good.
The second half was sweet.
Yeah, the last 2 minutes of all 4 of those games yesterday were awesome.
Yeah, intense.
It was great. It was intense.
Man, yeah, that shit is intense. I mean,
whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
They're
Speaking of intense.
Hey,
man.
Hey.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yeah.
FCC, I hope you're not listening right now.
Yeah, easy there, Izzo.
Yeah. And the FCC tuned in to hear Sipple's scoopage about Brad Stevens, and now we're going to get docked for it.
How about Appalachian State going 0 for 20 from 3-point range to start that game last night? And then almost won. Oh, they won, right? Didn't they win?
No, they lost. They
lost
worked,
late. Yeah.
They worked all the way back. They were down by 14 in the first half.
That's right.
All the way back, took the lead, and then lost at the buzzer.
Had a horrific last possession to lose at the buzzer or something like that.
0 for 20.
They started 0 for 20.
0 for 20. 0
so awesome.
for 20.
Oh, that's a 0 for 20. But they kept firing them. You got to respect that. They got all
Michigan State had that shot. They had a shot too, man. That
Jesus. They're at 14 late.
Yeah.
They scored 6 points the last 2 minutes of regulation and overtime.
I think they scored 3 points in the last 7 minutes of regulation or something like that.
UCLA was interesting to me, the way they really attack. They attack the basket.
Yeah.
They have a couple players that don't go to the basket. They attack the basket.
Yeah, in the several minutes that Baz and I were talking before all 3 of us were on this podcast.
Wow, Parker, easy.
While we were waiting to start, we were talking about Jurang, Johnny Jurang. Is that his name?
Yes,
Johnny Juzang.
Juzang from UCLA. He's pretty nice.
Yeah, it feels good. This feels good. The tournament feels
wonderful.
Feels good. Yeah, I'll be locked in hard. I imagine Parker will for Wisconsin, North Carolina. I'm very interested in that game. Roy Williams is 29-0 in first round games, which is an incredible stat.
Think about that. Think about that in the context of covering Nebraska basketball. He's 0-7 all time in the big dance.
Yeah, Williams is 29-0.
Think about it. Think about it next year or 2 years from now. If Nebraska's playing a first round game, like right now, like 2 p.m, they're like a 5 seed playing a 12, and it's like a 6-point Nebraska lead with like 4 minutes left. Imagine all the butthole puckering that's going to be happening across.
I think of it this way. Imagine how much fun it would be.
Oh, it'd be so much fun.
I mean, even in the first 4, I was thinking about that last night at 9:00 when that game tipped off UCLA, Michigan State. Think about it. That would be fun if Nebraska was in that game.
Yeah, it would be. You're right.
On, and Fred?
And they should do that. Fred? They got to play the. I know that they won't probably stick with like the whole tournament in one state or one area, but man, the first 4 games like structured that way the day before the main tournament starts, they got to keep that. It's so cool.
I agree.
Like it was so.
The only way you can make it better is if you started at like noon. Did noon, 2:30, 5, 7:30.
Because under the current structure, Sipple, the games are like on Tuesday, I think, Tuesday and Wednesday. Yeah. And then you got this then there's a day. I mean, it's just 2 games and they're both at night, and it's like if it was one game of 16 seeds and it's at 6 p.m. on Tuesday night, there's a chance I'm not watching it. But when it's 4 games staggered on one day and the tournament, and like you've got 16 games starting the next morning, it's just like you're just extending the beginning of the like basketball overload to the night before. I watched more. I put it this way: I watched more of the first 4. I was less excited overall. Found myself like less counting down the days less to the start of the tournament this year than previously, and I was more into the first 4 yesterday than I
thought it felt big. I just thought the first 4 felt big. Charles and Kenny Smith and Ernie, they were doing their thing, and it didn't feel. I totally agree with you. I did.
Well, UCLA, Michigan State helps too, right? Like
it does.
That should be some good guidance for the committee to stick to sort of middling brand name teams in the first 4 too as 11 seeds.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, I tweeted this yesterday too. I had this I didn't know how excited I was going to be for the tournament. I filled out my bracket and it was kind of like whatever. I didn't really feel anything. And then I saw the One Shining Moment video, and then I saw the game started last night. I was like, oh yeah, I'm back. I'm locked into this. I'm fully invested now.
All the way.
I locked in at 9:00. Now I really am. It just felt good. I mean, there's some fans.
It did feel good.
I don't know how many fans are in the stands. How many fans are in the stands there, Parker?
Depends.
Between 10 and 20%, depending on the venue.
Yeah, I think it's like 1,500 at Assembly Hall or something like that, and a couple thousand at Mackey, and a couple thousand at that other Coliseum, and then
8 or 9,000 and
8 or 9,000 at Lucas Oil. Yeah, so less than 10 at every place. Yeah.
All right.
So, all right. So we since everybody wants to hear it, you guys want to do your Final 4 picks?
I think we could do that. I mean,
they're pretty similar if I remember from the Lincoln Journal-Star this week.
Yeah, I think we're all pretty similar. I'll rip through mine first. I got Gonzaga, Alabama, Baylor, Illinois, pretty chalky, 3 1s and a 2. I like offense. I like guard play. I think those 4 teams have probably the best guard play in the tournament. Give me Gonzaga over Bama, Illinois over Baylor, and give me Gonzaga over Illinois in the final. 2 classic games, 2 classic wins for Gonzaga to win the title.
All right, you got the Zags.
I like the Zags.
Parker?
Yep, I got Gonzaga, Alabama, same semifinal on one side. I've got Ohio State and Illinois. That's Ohio State, who's losing to 15-seed Oral Roberts. Looks all sorts of out of whack right now, so that's great. And Illinois on the other side, Illinois over the Buckeyes, Gonzaga over Alabama, and like Baz, I've got Gonzaga over Illinois in the final.
Yeah, we are similar.
I know.
All of them. Yeah, I got Gonzaga, Alabama on one side. And then the only difference is I got Purdue. I have Illinois and Purdue on the other.
You like Purdue.
Yeah, I've been on Purdue for a while. I mean, I just like their combo inside out game. And I really like that Baz. Is it Jaden Ivey? Is that his name?
Yeah, the freshman Jaden Ivey. He's a good player.
Yes.
Yep.
he's a star in the making. But they're
quite a
balanced.
quite a turnaround you've got on Illinois in the past 6 weeks or so.
Yeah, 6 weeks. I say 5 weeks. I turned hard on them. I didn't think they had the supporting cast. Probably put too much weight on Nebraska, pushing them into overtime. I don't know. They didn't play that well that night. Probably it was in Lincoln. It was colder than hell. It was about the most miserable time in human existence. And they had to come in here and they got it done. And I probably put too much weight on that. They have a pretty good, what I wondered is, do they have enough besides Io and Coburn? And they do. I mean, what they showed is they absolutely do.
I want it on the record that I would lay down my life for Andre Curbelo right now. I love
that guy. The only thing he does,
so fun.
You guys understand basketball. The only thing he does that bothers me is he gets deep way too often. I mean,
yes,
he drives too far and gets a little lost. But no, I'm with you. That guy is he's a beautiful point guard. Point guard.
He's fun to watch. They got a lot of guys that are fun. Like Io's fun to watch. Kofi's fun to watch.
Well, Io's on a mission. You can tell Io's on a mission.
Yeah.
You get a guy
that came back.
Yeah.
That's why he came back. He thought they were going to be good. And now look at it.
Yeah, you get a guy that talented on a mission. That's scary. They're scary. I mean, they're scary.
Yeah.
Coburn's playing better than he did at the beginning of the year, too. At the beginning of the year, like some nights he was really good and some nights he was just kind of floated around for being that big. But I don't know what his numbers are over the last 4 weeks or something, but it seems like he's been on a pretty good tear.
They had a stat today I saw. He's got like 78 dunks this year or something like that, and that's more than 325 teams in Division I. There's 341 teams in Division I think, or 343.
That'd be so sweet. Like, this isn't his entire game, but like I like that he goes for the two-hand hammer every time.
It's amazing. Yeah.
He's like Shaq. He does the Shaq,
Shaq.
the drop your weight and hang on the rim every time.
Imagine if Nebraska got a dude like that. Just a monster big man that just tried to dunk.
There would be grown men with like literally crying.
I'd have my shirt off in the media section. It'd be just disgusting behavior.
I don't know why your shirt would be off.
Why does the shirt have to come off?
There's ways.
It doesn't have to happen. There's other ways to celebrate a man dunking.
I do think about it a lot. If Nebraska were in this tournament, how fun it would be. And then when they actually win, and it'll happen, they'll get a win. I mean, Fred in year 4 at Iowa State was in the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but come on. I mean, it has to be.
Imagine if it did. Imagine if they were in the Sweet 16 in 2 years.
Oh, God.
Oh, could you imagine, Sip, you and me, like covering a Sweet 16 run, like in San Antonio or something like that?
There'd be tears.
We'd be in the river, on the river walking.
I would love it. I hope it happens because I would just want to see how many times Sipple would get yelled at by the NCAA staff on site for like trying to go out onto press row without like his drink in a Powerade.
One of the NCAA.
Sorry, I forgot. Sorry. Sorry.
Baylor 13, Hartford 12, more than halfway through the first half here. So another.
I got to get home. I got to get some nachos and get home.
Yeah, let's end this thing. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We appreciate you. Enjoy the tournament. We'll talk to you next week.